West Bloomfield Township Fire Chief Greg Flynn with us again on the MegaCast. Chief Flynn, thank you for being with us.
Tyler, good morning.
Good morning. How are you? How's your team at the FD?
The team is doing well. A little bit of a different venue for me today. I'm a day off for me, so I'm at home here with my COVID buddy Ruby, and but the team at work's doing great. And as you said, things are slowing down. We're seeing those numbers as they report out on the Michigan Department of Human Health and Services page and the Oakland County resource page that we're trending, continue to trend down. We'll see as testing goes up that there will be some folks that still will come up positive. But again, we're watching hospitalizations too, because many of these folks are going to beat the virus without any intervention from a medical professional, right? So they're going to isolate, quarantine at home, and they're gonna navigate through that in just a few short days, hopefully.
We had our hands full for sure at the beginning of this process in Oakland County, one of the highest COVID positive counties in the state of Michigan, right there with Wayne County, especially in the early months of this process. And it put a toll. It definitely took a toll on our first responders, working a lot of hours to keep our communities safe. Just how many hours or how long shifts were our first responders, at least in the fire department, from your knowledge, working in the thick of this process?
So early on, Tyler, when we look back to February and even the first week of March, the team was planning for this. So as vacations were being rescheduled and things were being changed around, we were prepared to make sure that our team was getting the appropriate amount of rest and cycling through the shifts appropriately. So they pretty much stayed on their standard shifts. Now, if there was overtime available, some of our staff did opt to stay at work. So if they had family at home that was at risk, they would just continue to stay at work because, we have a bed and a kitchen and everything for our firefighters. So it's just like it's a home away from home, if you will. And some of our first responders felt that was safer for their families to just keep that distance. So overall, still doing well. Morale, I think, is very positive. And they're very pleased with the success that the residents, by just staying at home and keeping their social distancing and the things that they've done very well in West Bloomfield, Orchard Lake, Kego, and Sylvan, they've just done a great job.
How critical is it for them to get this rest right now, especially coming off of such a stressful few months with a lot of cases and seeing a lot of things COVID-related in our community? Is this rest important for them, especially if there's a case where we may end up seeing a second wave down the line?
The simple answer is yes, it's important, but the rest is important for all of us. As first responders or as school teachers, as nurses, as the utility workers that are out and continue, all of us need a little bit of a break. And, I especially want to highlight those parents and caregivers for small children that have been completely isolated. And I think we tend to have an approach of, oh, well, they're at home. Well, Danielle and I raised 3 boys, and as a fireman working 24-hour shifts, when I was home with the boys, that can be a long day, but the next day I would go to work. People have been home and isolated for months, and I think it's important that we start looking at how they're going to get some rest, as well as our first responders and those working on the front lines.
It is interesting to think about that, and we will be talking about some of those issues with Melanie Schwartz from Viewpoint Psychology and Wellness later on in the show about the different ways that we should be reducing our stress and helping others that we work with, our colleagues and other people like our friends and our family, because the stresses of COVID-19 and this pandemic are still ongoing, even if the numbers are beginning to dwindle. Being joined by Greg Flynn, the West Bloomfield Township Fire Chief. Also, West Bloomfield Fire Department is our Facebook partner today. We're live with them throughout the show on their Facebook page. Go ahead and shoot them a like, and give us a like as well on Civic Center TV on Facebook. Greg Flynn, continuing on. You talk about reducing stress, and you're talking about providing the rest that's needed to our first responders and to other workers throughout the township at a leadership level. What discussions have you had with your leadership, with your fellow leadership at the fire department, with other emergency services leadership in West Bloomfield, even to township board level and the supervisor level, to ensure that happens so that we continue to have our local city services and municipal services employees be fresh and be able to do their jobs effectively without stress taking a major toll.
Right. So we refer to it as self-care, and I think you've had some counselors on over the weeks here where we talk about self-care. And Ruby's a big part of my self-care. So when I get home from work, Ruby and I usually hop on the bike, and she runs alongside, and just getting out and finding some time for yourself is going to be an important part of that. Finding some time with the family that's a little bit different than just being in the house. And that's, I think it's for some folks, it's just a little bit challenging. Each of the calls now we're screening and have been screening throughout is the idea of if they have one symptom, the guys are putting on all their gear, and all of that starts to wear on the first responders, on the nurses, on all the healthcare professionals. And when you look at it, Tyler, you and your team have been coming to work every single day throughout this. And, you guys also need some of that time away. And many businesses are just now starting to open up. They're just coming back to work. And I find that a little bit ironic. When I was talking to your team yesterday, I said, well, I have a day off, and I'm going to be at home. And we wanted to highlight that's a big part of taking the time for yourself. That's what we refer to as self-care.
Yeah, self-care is very important, as you've said, throughout this. And you have to take that time to have some alone time, to de-stress, to get some peace and quiet, because there's been so much going on throughout this entire coronavirus crisis, throughout the pandemic, with everything else going on in the world. There's a lot of noise surrounding us now, and having those moments of peace with your family, with activities that you enjoy, just rest in peace and quiet is absolutely critical.
Right.
So, Chief Flynn, moving on, we've seen lately another thing that's been popping up in our community as businesses reopen and as people emerge from their homes and go back to work and go back to recreational activities. We've also seen some other factors pop up in the form of protests. We've had Black Lives Matter protests in West Bloomfield. There's another one tonight in Keagle Harbor and neighboring communities in our megacast network of stations. We've had protests there too. From what you've observed and what your colleagues in fire departments throughout Oakland County have observed, what do you see as the COVID safety precaution performance of the protesters, the first responders, as they've been responding to this? Have you seen people out on these protests that have been keeping those precautions well, at least wearing the masks? Or are there ways that we can improve as we're going out and we're having our voices be heard, but also maintaining the safety with COVID-19 still very much looming as an issue?
Sure, Tyler, there's a spectrum of compliance with any event. And what I want to compliment is the teams that have the folks that have been planning some of these peaceful gatherings and working and collaborating with our city managers and city officials, township officials, the public safety providers, just to make sure that their voices are heard and they're heard safely. And I think we've seen that. Chief Patton and his team, along with the event coordinators there, did a very peaceful and a wonderful event for them last week. And I'm very confident that the team up in Keego and in the Tri-City area is going to do the exact same thing today. And our residents and those that are visiting our communities, I think are very respectful folks, and they know that when their voices are even louder when they do that. And it's a great opportunity for them to demonstrate some of the things like you've highlighted, a little bit of social distancing, wearing those masks if we're not able to accommodate the social distancing. And finally, Tyler, if they're not feeling well, if they have a sore throat, if they have a cough, if they have a fever, they shouldn't be participating in the event today.
Chief Greg Flynn, thanks again for being with us. It's great to talk to you. Erica Jones here. And, I hate to bring this up because I'd like to think that this will be over soon and we're not going to have a second wave. But on the chance we do see some spikes again in the near future, does the fire department have a set plan as to how that's going to be approached? Are there new strategies that will be put into play that weren't necessarily last time just because we didn't know as much? Or what are you thinking moving forward if we do cross that bridge?
Hi, Erica. That's a great question. And thanks for asking that, because I think it's very important that the community knows that we're positioned much better today than we were yesterday, and then what we were weeks ago and then months ago. We continue to learn more about COVID and its transmission. We continue to learn more about the treatments. And we continue to see the supply chain for PPE increase and the speed at which we're seeing things. And what we're also recognizing is how innovative folks are within our community. The outpouring of donations from 3D printers and things that we could use to keep our team safe so that we can safely help those in our community has been unbelievable. So to answer your question, yes, there's a plan. Yes, we're ready. And yes, we have a community that's better equipped to respond to a second wave. And that's why many of my colleagues are confident that when that second wave hits, because it will hit to some degree, that it is going to be something that we will be able to manage a little bit, much easier, not a little bit easier, but much easier than we did back in those first weeks of March.
Joining us on the Oakland County Megacast is Chief Greg Flynn of the West Bloomfield Fire Department, talking COVID-19, talking about the safety precautions that we've been employing as people come back out of their homes. And on that note, Chief Flynn, businesses are reopening. We have the restaurants, we had retail stores reopen throughout West Bloomfield, throughout the greater area, and Oakland County as well this week. Next week, we're going to see hair salons and barbershops and the like, some of those personal services, as they're called, at the state level, reopen throughout the area. As far as their performance so far, from what your team has seen, from what discussions maybe you've had and other emergency services have had with these businesses, how are they doing so far, employing those social distancing measures and encouraging other safety precautions and training their staff as they bring people back into their stores?
As I have the opportunity to talk to some of our local business owners and or friends of mine that are in the business, colleagues, other firefighters that have spouses that are in that industry, they're anxious to get back to work and they're anxious to do it right. And I know Lieutenant Dennis Cotton's wife, Julie, has a salon. And what a great combination where I think Dennis plays a little bit of an advisory role and can give her some coaching on that. And I think she takes that and improves upon it, like other salons and barber shops and folks that provide those types of services. They want to do it right. You know, we've got to keep in mind that they don't want their clients sick. That doesn't help their business model if they're not doing things well. A restaurant doesn't want to be known for being the place that was the start of a second wave. And that's the kind of confidence I think we need to have in our local business owners. You know, Oakland County, through the help of the township, distributed boxes to local businesses that they could have extra masks and hand sanitizer and really a game plan for opening up. So the support is there, the desire is there from our business owners, and the desire is there from their clients that want to get back in there. And you know, not everybody can cut their hair quite as easily as the fire chief, right? So it's a good thing to see them opening up and doing such a good job. And I do have to compliment Mrs. Flynn for this because she takes care of all the Flynn boys.
She did a very nice job, by the way. She did.
Thanks.
So Chief Greg Flynn, West Bloomfield Fire Chief, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Just a couple more minutes with you. Any lasting advice going forward from this point that you have for residents in our communities, for the businesses that are planning to reopen and are getting ready for that whole process? Any further advice at this point that you can give that would be helpful for them right now?
I think the biggest thing, and you've heard this and seen this on some of the social media posts, but it's, you know, to be kind. There are people with all different thresholds for how this virus has impacted them. Tyler, I've been out in the community since day one and doing all of that with precautions and clearly doing more of it as time has gone by. I'm very pleased to announce my COVID test has come back negative. My antibody test that I recently had has come back negative. And I share that with you because I'm doing the exact same things that we're recommending to our residents to do. I'm washing my hands frequently. When I meet someone new, I say hello, have a warm greeting. I'm not shaking hands on a regular basis. Those are the types of things that are going to set us up for success. We don't need to be afraid of the coronavirus. We don't need to be afraid. Viruses have been around forever. What we need to be is informed. And when we're informed and we understand how the virus is transmitted, we can easily combat this and we can easily reduce our risk because we know once the virus does infect folks that there are some people that are very, very susceptible to the becoming very symptomatic and a small percentage being hospitalized. So that's the advice. Re-engage in the community in a safe manner with confidence and compassion for those to do the right thing and compassion for those around you that maybe aren't in the same place that you are. There are some that really want to get back out there. They don't want to wear a mask. They don't want to do this. And you're sending a message of a little bit of disrespect to your neighbors because it doesn't take much effort to put a face covering on, and we can do that, and then we can all move forward with confidence and bring our communities back to full operation, if you will.
Chief Greg Flynn of the West Bloomfield Fire Department with us on the show today on the MegaCast. One last question for you. You've been out a lot. You've been working really hard throughout this entire pandemic in our community, keeping people informed, keeping the fire department's affairs and orders, working with the township and the Emergency Operations Center for an effective response. But I got to ask, how's Ruby been doing through all this?
So, I think you'll find most of the pets have probably responded very positively to this. Everybody's home all day with Ruby. We actually took Ruby's crate and collapsed it down and put it away because there's always somebody home. The boys she's getting more walks, more attention, and more visitors walking by. We're a corner lot, and so she has plenty of people walking by on all sides and doing great. And I will compliment the vets, the veterinarians that have kept care going and making sure that prescriptions for our furry friends, that all of that continues, and they've done an excellent job with that. They too, like all of us in different industries, have adapted to COVID. We're not afraid of it. We're responding to it in an informed manner with compassion to everybody, even the four-legged or two-winged or scaled friends that we might have at home.
All right, thank you very much. We have the top dog from the West Bloomfield Fire Department, and we also have Chief Flynn with us as well. Chief Flynn, Ruby, thank you both for joining us today on the MegaCast.
All right, Tyler, Erica, thanks.
Thank you. Chief Greg Flynn from the West Bloomfield Fire Department.